Number 1. The hidden exhaustion behind kind people. Have you ever looked at someone who seems endlessly gentle? Someone who always says yes, who always shows up, who always smiles, and felt like something didn't quite add up. But if you slow down long enough to really see them, you might notice something else hiding beneath that softness. A heaviness in their expression. A tiredness tucked behind their eyes. A quiet ache they never mention, and the world applauds them for it. We praise kindness as if it's effortless, pure, uncomplicated. Like everything in the human experience, it has a bright side and a shadow. And when that shadow goes unrecognized, when we cling to the idea that kindness must always be selfless, unconditional, endlessly available, something inside a person begins to fracture. And once you understand how kindness can become a survival strategy instead of a genuine expression of care, you begin to see why so many nice people are secretly exhausted. That's something else entirely. Number 2, childhood conditioning. When kindness becomes survival. For many people, the habit of being endlessly kind didn't start in adulthood. It began long before they even understood what kindness meant. A child notices something subtle. When they're agreeable, when they put others first, when they silence their own discomfort to keep the peace. The adults around them respond positively. They absorb the lesson instantly. If I am pleasing, I am safe. If I am helpful, I am loved. If I don't take up space, people approve of me. What starts as simple praise becomes internal wiring. The brain begins stitching together a deeply rooted belief that kindness isn't just a behavior. It's a requirement for belonging. Over time, this belief becomes so woven into their identity that they no longer know where their genuine personality ends and their performance of kindness begins. They become the dependable friend, the comforting sibling, the student or coworker who never complains, the person who smooths over every conflict. The expectation becomes part of their character. Invisible, unquestioned, automatic. Staying silent feels easier than risking disappointment. They're no longer being kind because it feels good. They're being kind because the alternative feels dangerous, yet they rarely acknowledge it. Because people who are chronically kind often believe they're not allowed to feel anything negative. They think frustration is selfish. They think disappointment is ungrateful. And so the cycle continues. Overgiving, overextending, overperforming. Everyday people who identify as the dependable one experience it too. They know something is wrong, but they don't know how to take the mask off without disappointing everyone who has grown comfortable with it. Number 4, the paradox. The kinder you are, the more invisible you become. There's a strange paradox that follows people who lead with endless kindness. The more dependable they become, the more others begin to overlook them. Not intentionally, not maliciously, just gradually, subtly, almost imperceptibly. They always are. And with every act of quiet self-sacrifice, others raise their expectations. If you've ever been the person who always bends so others don't break, you know this feeling. You're appreciated for what you do, but not always for who you are. Number 5, research. The science behind burnout and inauthentic giving. As heavy as all of this sounds, it isn't just emotional poetry or dramatic metaphor. Researchers have spent decades studying why people who seem endlessly generous often struggle the most internally, and the findings all tell the same story. Kindness without boundaries is psychologically and physically draining. One major study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who have difficulty saying no, especially those who identify as agreeable or naturally empathetic, are significantly more prone to burnout. Not because they're weak, but because their nervous system is constantly in a state of overextension. Acts of generosity and altruism do increase happiness, but only when the kindness is voluntary and authentic. When people give out of guilt, fear, obligation, or pressure to maintain an identity, their emotional well-being actually drops. Stress increases, life satisfaction decreases. The kindness stops being uplifting and becomes a psychological burden. Think about that. The very thing society praises, relentless selflessness, can quietly erode mental health when it isn't truly chosen. You're always there for everyone. Meanwhile, the science is clear. Kindness becomes destructive when it empties you faster than you can refill yourself. What looks noble on the outside can quietly strip a person of their identity, energy, and emotional resilience on the inside. Number 6, the monster within. Repressed emotions don't disappear. Here's where things take a darker turn. Because when kindness becomes a habit of self-abandonment, the emotions you bury don't simply evaporate. They lie in wait. They collect in the corners of your mind like stagnant water, slowly growing heavier over time. Most people who are chronically kind believe they're doing the right thing by swallowing their frustration, ignoring their exhaustion, or hiding their disappointment. But what they're really doing is pushing their own emotional truth into the shadows, hoping it stays quiet. Eventually, they start slipping out in ways that feel foreign, even frightening. Maybe it's snapping at someone you care about over something insignificant. Maybe it's withdrawing from social situations without really knowing why. Maybe it's passive-aggressive comments you don't mean to say, but can't seem to hold back. We like to imagine that being nice protects us from all this, as if kindness creates a shield that keeps negativity away. But truthfully, kindness without honesty creates the perfect environment for inner chaos. It's like sealing a pot and turning up the heat. Sooner or later, the pressure has to escape. And this is the monster within kind people rarely talk about. Not an actual monster, but the version of themselves they don't recognize. The version that emerges only after too many swallowed words, too many broken boundaries, too many moments where they said yes while their whole body screamed no. It's proof that they've ignored themselves for too long. Unspoken truths demand attention. Unacknowledged needs demand expression. And the longer they're buried under forced kindness, the more fiercely they claw their way to the surface. This isn't just personal, it's cultural. From childhood, many of us are taught a very specific version of goodness, one that subtly equates kindness with obedience, self-sacrifice, and emotional silence. Think about the messages children hear all the time. She's such a good girl. She never causes trouble. He's such a nice boy. He always does what he's told. You're being selfish. Share, even if you don't want to. These phrases sound harmless, even positive. But hidden inside them is a powerful idea. A good person doesn't make demands. A good person is easy. A good person puts others first, always. For kids growing up in environments where affection is conditional, where love comes when they behave, comply, or meet the emotional needs of adults, kindness becomes currency, a performance, a way to stay accepted. And that belief doesn't magically disappear in adulthood. Instead, it turns into people-pleasing. It turns into over-apologizing. It turns into staying quiet to avoid disappointing anyone. Many adults don't realize that their kindness is actually a survival pattern learned long before they had the language for it. Then there's society as a whole. We glorify relentless helpers. We praise the ones who never rest, never complain, never ask for support. We reward the kind of behavior that looks selfless while ignoring the internal cost. In movies, books, and even workplaces, the good character is often the one who disappears so others can shine. But here's the truth. Kindness that requires you to erase yourself isn't kindness. It's conditioning. Authentic kindness involves choice. It involves honesty. Real goodness asks us to show up fully and still choose compassion. And that shift changes everything. Number 8. Neuroscience, mirror neurons, stress, and the limits of endless empathy. Now let's step into the brain, because the story of kindness isn't just emotional or cultural, it's biological. Our nervous system is wired to connect, to empathize, to feel what others feel. If you watch someone cry, your brain lights up as if you are the one in pain. This is why empathy feels so instinctive. It's why kindness comes naturally to so many people. On a neurological level, caring for others is part of being human. What begins as compassion slowly becomes emotional overload. That overload triggers your body's stress response. Cortisol rises, the nervous system stays alert. Over time, this cycle, giving, absorbing, worrying, repeating, quietly reshapes your mind and body. It's that your brain is not designed for endless kindness that ignores your own limits. What once felt intuitive and meaningful becomes exhausting and unsustainable. And the longer this imbalance continues, the more a person feels disconnected, drained, and strangely hollow, because their emotional wiring has been stretched beyond what it was ever meant to endure. How do we stay compassionate without collapsing under the weight of everyone else's needs? The answer isn't about becoming less kind. It's about redirecting some of that kindness back to yourself. The first step is learning to pause. Next comes the art of the gentle no. It can be soft, compassionate, grounded. I care about you, but I can't take that on right now. I want to help, but I don't have the capacity today. These phrases honor both you and the other person. Then there's the deeper work, reframing your sense of worth. You are valuable simply because you exist. Every human is. But kind people often forget this truth because they've been praised for their selflessness for so long that they mistake it for identity. From there, the work moves inward. Tend to your own life. Anger isn't cruelty. Frustration isn't selfishness. Sadness isn't weakness. You stop feeding the quiet resentment. You stop creating the monster that emerges from overgiving. Generosity used to prove worth. The mask feels familiar, even safe, but it's heavy, and the longer you wear it, the more it presses down on the parts of you that are aching to breathe. The real journey isn't about throwing kindness away. The version of you who doesn't disappear to make others comfortable. The version who can say yes and no with equal honesty. The version who understands that compassion without truth isn't compassion. It's performance. That's where real kindness begins. Not in grand gestures, not in endless giving, not in being the person everyone expects you to be. It begins in the quiet moments. Do you rest when you're tired? Because if the answer is no, then the kindness you show the world is built on a fragile foundation. You cannot offer steady compassion from a place of self-neglect. You cannot care deeply for others while abandoning yourself. But here's the irony and the hope. When you finally treat yourself with genuine kindness, your kindness toward others doesn't shrink. It expands. It becomes richer, calmer, stronger. It inspires instead of exhausts. It lifts others without burying you. And maybe that's the true message underneath all of this. The dark side of kindness isn't about rejecting kindness, from a mask to a mirror. Because at the end of the day, the real danger isn't your limits, your anger, or your boundaries. The real danger is abandoning yourself in the name of being good. When you finally face that, when you put the mask down, you discover something powerful. Your kindness doesn't disappear. It becomes sharper, brighter, more alive. It becomes the kind of kindness that doesn't just keep other people going. It keeps you alive, too. And that might be the most important kind of kindness the world has ever needed.